Motivation is $1 billion-a-year industry. Motivation to go to the gym, motivation to eat healthy, motivation to improve work performance. We all need a little extra help in the motivation department. We know that there are really two kinds of motivation: intrinsic and extrinsic. Intrinsic motivation simply means that accomplishing the task itself is motivating enough. With this type of motivation, you are driven to complete the task from within. Intrinsic motivation might include reading a new series of books because you love to read. On the other hand, extrinsic motivation means that you receive something for completing the task. In other words, there is some external factor that pushes you along. An example of this might be receiving a paycheck after working hard all week. There is no right or wrong when it comes to different types of motivation. Each one serves a purpose in our lives. Many people believe that we should all have intrinsic motivation for everything we do in life. However, most of us need a little help from time to time. After all, that's why motivation is a $1 billion-a-year industry. Companies are constantly looking for new ways to increase motivation in their employees, and employers can be very creative in using incentives. Children and teenagers are really no different. At times, they will be intrinsically motivated to participate in new activities and to learn new skills. And at other times, they'll need a little help to stay motivated, especially through more difficult tasks. Motivation for individuals with ASD is a bit more complex, though. Because of the primary and secondary characteristics of ASD, individuals may not be intrinsically motivated at first. Many individuals will require extrinsic motivation more often or for longer periods of time. For example, individuals with ASD may have intense interests or repetitive behaviors and have trouble transitioning from one task to another. In this situation, we'll use motivating strategies as a way to help the individual start a new activity where they can interact with others and learn new skills. It's important to remember that this does not mean an individual with ASD will never be intrinsically motivated. It simply means that as they learn various skills and continue to develop, that will support them using various strategies until they are ready. So where do we start? How do we motivate individuals with ASD to participate in tasks or activities and learn new skills? First, we need to understand an individual's strengths. Due to the challenges of ASD, we often find that individuals may excel in one area and have significant difficulty in another. Their development can often seem very uneven. While there are indeed many challenges to ASD, individuals also have a great many strengths. It's important to recognize common strengths like visual processing, strong memories, and attention to detail. It's also important to investigate for other strengths in each individual. Next, we need to understand a person's interests. Everyone has interests, and the individual with ASD is no different. Sometimes an individual with ASD will have an interest that lasts a lifetime. Other individuals may have interests that change repeatedly. For some individuals, an interest may be obvious because that's all the person wants to talk about, such as dinosaurs or trains or antique cars. Or it's very obvious because a child only wants to do one activity, like jumping on a trampoline over and over again. Other times, interests may not be as obvious and will take some investigating. It's important, though, that you believe that the individual with ASD has strengths and interests, even if they aren't always obvious to everyone else. Many individuals with ASD may not be motivated to participate in a variety of activities or to learn new skills unless their strengths and interests are included and encouraged. This might mean using strengths and interests to help an individual with ASD compensate for their challenges and reach their potential. Now that you have these two crucial pieces of information, what's next? With just 3 simple strategies, you can help motivate an individual throughout different activities and in different environments. These 3 strategies are priming, Premack, and presentation. Priming simply means preparing an individual with ASD for new tasks or activities ahead of time. Most of us naturally prepare others around us for big or important events all the time. Parents warn children of upcoming doctor appointments and what to expect. Teachers warn students about upcoming fire drills or assemblies, and companies alert employees about changes to work procedures. For individuals with ASD, though, we may want to use priming more often and throughout the day. For example, we might need to prepare a young child for a change in schedule or routine, and we might need to use a visual support as part of that presentation. Sometimes we even have to write a story and use pictures that will explain and show what will happen. Individuals with ASD have difficulty with change and with understanding expectations in different situations. Priming an individual ahead of time and preparing them for what will happen in advance is a crucial piece of success. Putting all this in a visual support will utilize strengths in visual processing and help make that important information more concrete. Next is the Premack Principle. The Premack Principle may sound complicated, but in reality, it's very simple and often referred to as Grandma's Rule. Basically, it means that we'll do a less preferred activity first, and when we're done, then we'll do something more desirable. We've all done this, right? Whether it's chores or work, we often reward ourselves with something fun after we've done something difficult. It's the same concept here. If an individual with ASD has to do something challenging, like put a puzzle together, or work on communicating with others, finish a math problem, or even complete a long work task, we'll make sure they know that when they are finished, then they can participate in something they really enjoy or have access to an item they really want. So if a young child has to work hard on an activity first, when she is done, then she gets to play on an iPad. Making this information visual with a first-then card can also be really helpful. As you consider the first and then activities or items, remember to individualize it based on the individual's abilities and interests. Most young children cannot do an all-day activity and then have access to a toy they enjoy. Also, keep the payoff relative to the effort the individual is putting into the task. Most individuals with autism aren't going to start off with a very difficult task for a payoff that isn't very motivating to them. Remember to keep it simple at first and appropriate to the person's abilities and needs. Start small and build from there. This is why it's so important to understand an individual's interests beforehand. The things that a person is interested in can be used to motivate them to complete something more difficult. Now, it's important to think of this first-then as a contract. In other words, say what you mean and mean what you say. If you tell an individual that first they will do something difficult and then they will get something or do something they enjoy, you have to mean it and follow through with it every single time. Using the Premack Principle can help keep an individual motivated throughout many different tasks, at home, at school, and in the community. Last but not least, we have presentation. This can really mean several different things in terms of motivation. First, it can mean that we consider the length of an activity or task we're asking an individual with ASD to do or participate in. If the length is too long for the individual's attention span or abilities, we'll need to adjust that to keep them motivated and interested. Every individual is different, so it's important to take into consideration a person's age, abilities, and needs when considering how long they should participate in and engage in an activity or task. Second, presentation can also include breaks. For example, if an individual has to participate in something longer, then we'll want to use breaks throughout the activity. We all need breaks, right? Individuals with ASD are no different. However, due to the challenges of ASD, many everyday actions and activities can be difficult and require a lot of concentration, so we may need to use breaks more often and many times throughout the day. As children get older, their abilities may change and breaks may get shorter and more infrequent. But it's something every child has to build towards. Remember, start small and build from there. Finally, presentation may also require us to intersperse difficult activities with something easier. If an individual with ASD is required to only participate in really challenging tasks, we may not be utilizing their strengths and encouraging positive self-esteem. After all, I know very few people who only like doing really difficult things. All of us struggle with difficult tasks, and many times will fail again and again until we eventually succeed. That requires a lot of motivation for even the best of us. It's important to remember that individuals with ASD may struggle more often with different tasks, and this can be incredibly frustrating. In this situation, it's important to do a little of this and a little of that. Combine the difficult task with something that's easier in order to improve confidence and encourage motivation. While improving motivation for individuals with ASD, remember to use the 3 Ps: priming, Premack, and presentation. As children with ASD grow and develop, all of these strategies can be adjusted to include new abilities, longer attention span, and more difficult tasks. All of these strategies can also be individualized based on the person's strengths and interests too. As individuals with ASD become more successful at completing activities and learning new skills through the use of extrinsic motivation, their self-esteem and self-confidence will grow.